pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Gould. Tonight's meeting is an open session meeting videotape for cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replay on Saturday, April 29th, 2017 at 12 noon, and Sunday, April 30th, 2017 at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. Also webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The open session meetings are also available for viewing on the district website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. Right now, we'd like to offer the public opportunity to discuss matters on the public interest within district jurisdiction, including items or not items on the agenda. Madam Clerk?
There are no speakers this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the consent items. Let's see if there's any questions or comments from the board on tonight's consent.
Mr. Chairman, I move the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Director Gale.
On item 2, consent agenda, I'm abstaining on that one.
So I will have you abstain from the entire consent agenda.
No, on that item.
We take consent agendas as a whole.
Well, 2, item 2 is the one. Entry,
I will have you abstain from this vote. Director Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the presentation items. St. Baldrick's Event Make a Bald Statement Award. Presentation, PIO Vestal.
Vice President Barnes, members of the board, Chief Harms. This last year, one of our captains, Bob Bruce, currently assigned to the EMS division, participated in leading a team of Metro employees in a fundraiser for the Keaton Raphael Memorial, as well as St. Baldrick's, which were kind of tied together on this program. Those of you that know Captain Bruce, over the time that he's been here, been a real big community partner, real big supporter of anything with outreach. And so tonight, the Keaton Raphael organization with Patty Neefer, who is the Economic Development Director, and Reed Baumgartner, who is their Director, would like to present Captain Bruce and those who supported his team with some special recognition.
Thank you very much. Would you like to say a few words on the organization?
We would just like to start with a quick video, kind of recapping some highlights, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I wanted to give you a glimpse of what the Sacramento Metro team did in February during the St. Baldrick's event. And child cancer is the leading cause of death among children in the United States. And this team did a great job raising funds for child cancer research.
Thank you for letting us do that. So again, on March 4th is when we hold our annual St. Baldrick's Brave the Shave event. And this was the first year we actually had Sac Metro Fire join us. And not only did they kind of steal the show, as you can see, originally they told us we were going to have 12. They ended up showing up with 32 members. So I actually am part of Leadership Rockland, and last week I was over at the Rockland and Fire Department as well as the Police Department, who also was at our event. And they actually pointed out to me that they felt they were kind of upstage in their own home. So my compliments to Sac Metro. It's a good thing they're not competitive by any means. So, but with that being said, I mean, not only did Sac Metro obviously have a huge representation there, they actually were the second highest fundraising team at the event, and about $7,000 more than the local fire department. So another point that we made sure we let them go. But I mean, it's such an honor to have you all there and to have your participation there, because not only did it just make that event special, because when that one fireman was doing his burpees, which was most impressive, and I think he committed to having to do over 1,000 burpees by the time he was done. But the crowd at the Westfield Galleria was the largest we've ever seen. And honestly, on part, thank you to the Sac Metro Fire Department. And so with that, we wanted to take a moment to have Captain Bob Bruce come up. We have an award, and any of the other fire department members who are here to please come up. And so this is a little token of our appreciation for St. Baldrick's. This goes to the highest fundraising team for the event. So we wanted to badge team. So we wanted to give this to Captain Bruce. Oh, and Cora's here. Perfect. Come on up. And again, this goes. They raised over almost $13,000. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to next year as well. So bring out 50 if you can.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We use that as a recruitment tool. We'll go into other areas and show how we do it and then get people in our next academy. So thank you for being here tonight. It goes to a great cause. It means a lot. Anybody?
Chairman? Patty, did you not used to be the CEO at the Burn Institute?
For about 10 years, yes.
10
Hi,
years.
Gay.
Thank you for the wonderful work you did while you were at that organization.
Thank you.
And I'd love to second that comment. Thank you, Matt.
Any other board comments? Thank you again. We appreciate it, Metro Fire. We love the fact you get out in the community and raise money. That's all part of what we do as well. So great representation by everybody. I saw some people on there were a little bit more challenged for the hair. Didn't have to shave too much off, but still kudos to them for, gave them an excuse, I would say. But no, we appreciate it. It looks great. Moving on to wall time presentations. Assistant Chief Hine.
And good evening, Vice President Barnes, Board Directors, Chief Harms, Randall Hine, Assistant Chief Director of EMS. In your board packet, you will notice a couple of items, that there is a letter from Dr. Garzone, the County Medical Director, addressing wall times, and then also from the State EMS Commission, the standardized methodology in calculating wall time. So those are there for your point of reference as we go through this discussion. This evening, we're going to be talking about the ambulance patient offload times, or known as APOT, or affectionately called wall times. We'll be looking at American Medical Response Update, and then also the Flex Medic program, along with the EMS training update as well. When we talk about wall times, we're going to look at the hospital throughput system, the history of wall times over the years, a few viewpoints on that, the effect on the system, statistics, and then what Metro Fire is doing to combat the wall times. If we look at this picture, we see 4 different boxes from left to right. We see the intake in box number 1. This is where the patient comes into the ED via ambulance and is waiting for a bed. The throughput section is where we have a patient in the bed awaiting whether to be admitted or discharged. And then the output would be either to move to a bed upstairs or to be discharged from the ED itself. And then we look at box number 4 is the hospital inpatient, which is the hospital census that comes into play when we're talking about the wall times in the ED, because if there's not a bed available upstairs in the ICU or another area, that hampers the movement of patients out of the emergency department. So if we look in between the boxes of 1 and 2, that is where wall times come in. The patient crosses the threshold of the ED, but there's no bed available. And so that is a component of this matrix that we'll be talking about this evening. So a little history on wall times themselves. If we look at the first section there, on January 1st, 2004, Assembly Bill 394 was enacted, which for the first time set the nurse-to-patient ratio of 1:4 in the emergency department. That means that as that fifth patient comes into the ED, that they cannot get a bed if that nurse is tied up with 4 patients, even if they are ready for discharge or movement upstairs. They have to get that third and or fourth patient off of their docket in order to accept that next patient in. Then we look at 2006. In July 2006, CMS identified an issue of what they referred to as parking a patient that comes into the ED by ambulance. And I'd like to read a quote to you from a 2006 document from the Center for Medicare Medicaid Services. And I quote, "CMS recognizes the enormous strain and crowding many hospital emergency departments face every day. Parking patients in hospitals and refusing to release the EMS equipment or personnel jeopardizes patient health and impacts the ability of the EMS personnel to provide emergency services to the rest of the community," unquote. And so we can see, even at that time, they recognized that there was an issue developing. Fast forward 8 years. In 2014, in concert with, because of the magnitude of the issue, the California Hospital Association and the California EMSA, or Emergency Services Authority, released a 122-page document, which they entitled the Toolkit for Reducing Ambulance Patient Offload Times in the Emergency Department, when there are certain recommendations that they had in this document to combat the wall times. Then we look at 2015. AB 1223 was put into play and was added to the State Health and Safety Code, which basically they standardized a methodology for collecting data to be able to track these wall times. And this was the methodology that the LEMSAs, or the local EMS agencies and authorities, would regulate. So the effects on the system, that we have lost unit hours while crews are way down the wall. Metro units have diminished response capability, and then we have member fatigue and frustration secondary to those wait times. We're going to talk about a few different metrics that the state and the local EMS authority has generated to measure patient offload times. First, we're going to look at APOT 1, which is 90% of the time a patient should be transferred to a hospital bed within 20 minutes, according to these agencies. This year, the APOT 1 time is on average 42 minutes for Metro Fire, which of course is twice as recommended by the state and county authorities. If we look at APOT 2, this is where the metric of the transfer times of patients off the EMS gurneys takes longer than 20 minutes. They are attempting to measure this, and then we see the breakdown there. They look at up to an hour, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3, and 3+ hours. So if we look at the month of March, and we have 11 region hospitals in the area, and if we concentrate on the numbers in red, we see basically this 35% of the time, ambulances take longer than 20 minutes to be offloaded, the patient offloaded off their gurney in the region hospitals. If we look at this is a graph depiction of the 11 area hospitals. We see hospital A and B. We do have if we look at the 20-minute up to 3 hours, we see that those are reflected in the bar graph as the wait times that some of our crews are experiencing. Delving a little bit deeper into Hospital A, if we look at 57% of the time that they are there longer than the recommended 20 minutes, all the way up to 3 hours. Hospital B, they're at the 54%, they're looking at those extended wall times, which again severely impacts the community and our service delivery model. Now, if we look at the maximums, we see that a breakdown by hour of the day that for the first quarter of 2017 is from 3.1 hours all the way up to 5.5 hours wait time. And we want to remember that these numbers are, even during flu season, are part of that is encapsulated in there, which of course calls for higher call volume. But again, we can see the max hours that these crews are waiting on the wall. So what is the effect to our customers? Currently, the amount of time to transfer a patient is greater than 60 minutes, which is equivalent to 13 hours a day of lost unit hours, or equal to having one 12-hour ambulance on the street serving the community. Then if we look at anything greater than 20 minutes, it's equivalent to 37 hours a day of lost unit hours, or equates to 3 12-hour units, or one 24 and one 12-hour ambulance. So a few things that be able to look at optimizing the success factors for throughput. The toolkit document that I referred to earlier, portion of that identifies 74 hospitals in the state that did not have wall time issues. And these three items, or these three factors, is what they used to be able to not have an issue. They optimized their ED intake process. Secondly, they looked at the overall hospital process and patient movement throughout the whole facility. And thirdly, they looked at the hospital and the LIMSA, or the local EMS authority, collaborating and doing an ongoing evaluation to make sure the problem stayed in check. So what are we doing at Metro Fire? First thing we're doing is that through all the regional agencies, we are establishing a unit hour utilization standard formula that we'll be able to have the data captured on our end to be able to take to the hospital CEOs and so forth as we go and have conversations with them to see the impact that it's having on our units. Secondly, the Sacramento Hospital Surge Response was something that was developed in January of this year, where we would actually, for those high capacity days, we would actually send either an engine or a truck to stand by at the hospitals with those patients, and then releasing the medics to get back to serving the community. Then we collaborate with the hospitals. And currently there are 2 regional hospitals that are using an EMS Express patient intake, and to be able to facilitate that component and be able to get the patients off of our gurneys quicker and in a more efficient manner. And then 2 of the area hospitals are remodeling their EDs, or actually expanding their beds by double, but unfortunately they won't be completed till 2020, which again, we're 3 years out from that standpoint. Then also, number 4, we're looking at selective dispatches of medics on low acuity calls, because all of our first responders are ALS. Then once they get there, evaluate, see if we have a need for a medic unit at all, and then that's going to lower the unit hour utilization of those units. And number 5, establish a standby billing criteria and fee structure for our standby time. And number 6, we would support a county diversion for high capacity days, which some years ago we used to have, but is currently not enacted. So these are the things that we are doing specifically to address this issue. Now, as we move on to a quick update on AMR, we'll look at a few statistics and their times of operation. We can see that we have 4 units of AMR apparatus that are operating within our service area, and these are during the peak times, anywhere from 9 to 9 or 10 to 10, which are identified as those high call volume times. Medic 805 was moved recently on April 1 from a night car to a day car for better efficient utilization of that unit. Call volume, as we see here, basically these units are collectively averaging for a given month about 800 calls that they are running, and being able to provide relief to our service area. Talking about our Flex Medic program, a little bit of the overview, statistics, and the crew relief that we're obtaining from that is that in January, the Operations Division and 522 collaborated on bringing this program back. We utilize the in-service reserve medics. We have 5 of those that are actually are in one in each battalion. And these 2 medics, Medic 22 and Medic 51, were selected as being these flex medics, because otherwise, as an in-service reserve medic, they were cross-staffed by an engine company, which meant that you would need to take an engine company out of service for those high-capacity days. and peak times and have them staff a medic, run those calls, possibly get stuck at area hospitals for an extended period. So it was diminishing our service capability on the suppression side. So the 2 flex medics were put in service for a 120-day trial from February 15th to June 15th, and we'll be evaluating the efficacy of that program. So our goal, of course, was to maintain suppression coverage during peak call times, optimize train opportunities for medic crews, give an opportunity for engine and truck personnel to use their ALS skills on a transporting unit. And these 2 flex medics are filled by overtime and being able to have those personnel on those units. If we look at the call volume, they're running approximately 500 calls a month, and they're averaging 8 dispatches in a 12-hour period. So if we look at the heat map, the times that these flex medics are in service are from 9 to 9. And on the left, we see the call count, and then on the right, we see the density heat map. Medic 22, when it goes into service at 9 a.m., it is posted at station 108, which we can see on the bottom side of that red zone to be able to service that area in Citrus Heights. Medic 51 comes into service and is posted at station 53 in the south area. And again, we can see the heat map that shows the density of the calls that they would, the relief that they would give the surrounding crews in those areas. So the benefits to that program is that we get better unit utilization during peak times, decrease response times, increase service delivery, and then we keep suppression units in their first 2 area. An update on a few programs that we are utilizing within Metro to again give relief to our crews. Serial inebriate program, and we'll talk a little bit about EMS training. The serial inebriate program is where we were approached by Sacramento County Sheriff and the District Attorney's Office to collaborate with them on being able to assist them in the chronic intoxicated patients that both they and us run on in the county, and being able to identify those individuals that would qualify for that program for either 120-day rehab, or their option would be 120 days of incarceration. So they took the 120-day rehab route. And we're going to be looking at a 9-day study, which began April 14th, to be able to see the efficacy of that program as well at stations 24, 108, and 109, possibly eventually bringing this program throughout all of our service area, depending upon the results of this study. A little bit of EMS training. March and October are our 2 dedicated months here at Metro for EMS training. This past March, we had 24 sessions where we ran all of our members through 12 lead refresher and frequently used skills. And then in October, we'll be doing advanced cardiac life support for all of our members as well. And so I'd like to thank members of the EMS division and our staffing area, and also our fire dispatch for providing some of the resources that you had seen during this presentation. And that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Chief Hine. Any comments? Director Gill.
I have a question.
Oh, excuse me, Director
Okay.
Jones, excuse me.
Thank you.
We'll go here, then we'll go over there, sir.
All right. Chief Hine, fantastic report. Thank you very much. I would very much appreciate it if you could email me and perhaps my fellow directors a copy of this PowerPoint.
Be happy
very,
to.
very informative. I had a couple questions on the slide that talked about the 12-hour ambulance equivalent. It was sort of earlier in the presentation. Was that based on the average wall time for the medics during that time period?
Yes, correct. That was just an addition of all the hours and the increments that they would stand by on a wall, and that was just to show what that equated to if we were able to have a unit on the street.
Okay, so that reflects actual wall time.
Correct.
Okay, very good, very good. Then on later slide, number 5, in regards to billing for the wall time, what are potential options? To whom is it billed?
Well, the discussions that Chief Harms and I have had is that those fees, once a structure would be put in place and approved by the board, that those would be billed directly to the facilities where that would be affected.
Okay, so that's in development as we speak.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
we don't-
Chief
In
Harms, any comment on
So
that?
we do not have the ability to do that. So in the next year's budget, we'll have an option of what would that look like and what would those rates be, and we would have something that would be in place when we look at those times as an option.
Yeah, as an option. Okay, fine. And again, thank you. I really appreciated the density slides that show the analysis that you and your division have put in on exactly where to locate those the flex medics. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Jones. Director Gale.
You know, I appreciate your job you have, a very difficult one. Even if you had unlimited resources, there are times where you can't control traffic, can you?
No, you can't.
Delivering that. And there are people who ignore red lights and what have you to go over. That part is difficult for you to get the service to people to the hospital. If that was nothing in the way, you had just out there yourself going there, the data would probably be it would be scattered all over, as a matter of fact. There are some areas you get more calls, have more accidents and what have you. Say 5 o'clock on 80 or what have you going there. It's a nightmare.
Yes, it can be.
Yeah, it can be a nightmare. Even how well have you're staffed on the vehicle. You can do the best you can there, and the cost of doing that is something you can't refuse to do. It's a cost. We must have it. You know, there's no free lunch to get faster and faster and faster. But there are other factors, coordinating with the police department or highway patrol, recalcitrant citizens who just walk and ignore the signals. And in some neighborhoods, there are more incidents than others, and they can be very difficult, narrow streets and all. Those are factors in developing the model.
Yes, they
A
are.
very difficult task. And having a standard, it's a noble idea, but it's pretty hard to the confidence level in it probably goes all over the place. Yeah. And thanks for
Thank you, Director Gale.
thank you for the great job you do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Director Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Randy, thank you very much for this presentation. Obviously, it's near and dear to my heart. It's, I think, one of the main reasons I called for this topic a while ago, and I appreciate your staff giving us this detail. I hope that we continue to stay on top and track this. As you give your EMS updates that we see frequently, this would be one of those kinds of average wall times that we experience each month, or if it's not too much of a challenge to track that, because I think it does tell a story about how much hard work the men and women are doing, and yet some of these things are beyond our control at this time. I hope that changes significantly. And I'm very encouraged by some of the solutions that you're looking at, particularly about the change in how we dispatch to low acuity. We are running calls that are really not appropriate for the level of staffing and the level of response that we have. And that has got to stop in this community. The reality is when you call for toe pain that's been for 10 months, it's not an appropriate use. And it's high time this system mature enough where it can say to that individual, it is not appropriate to use a public or private ambulance for that transport. And I'm looking forward to the resolution of that, because that will drive down our demand for service and allow us to respond more appropriately. So I'm very encouraged to see that even on the table for discussion. But thanks to your staff, this wall time issue's got to go away as fast as it can, so our men and women can do all the other jobs that we're asking them to do as well. So thank you very much for your effort, and thank you for this presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Director Gould.
I have just a couple of questions. So, do we have any data that supports the wall time for the medics being there but having browned out medics? If we had them fully staffed out there, are our wall times, yes, we are going to, certain hospitals are going to have wall times, but we would still be able to capture revenue out there if we had all of the medics staffed. Do we have any data that supports that?
The Not specifically. The data that we do have is the amount of move-up and the backfill, if you will, that while our units are dedicated to a medical call at a hospital and standing by, that it draws units in from other areas of our district to be able to backfill behind that. And being able to, high capacity call times, no matter if we had 50 units on the street, that may not be enough to keep up with the capacity, secondary to, some of the flu seasons and so forth. But at this point in time, we don't have any. I'd be happy to, take a look at that component, but currently don't have any data related specific to that question.
Director Sheets, I think in what you bring up is a perfect example of a number of factors that all affect. And probably the biggest one that you're talking about there is that response time for that medic to be on scene.
Well, that and also calls being jumped by Consumnes or Sac City working with AMR. When Sac Metro can be out there working with AMR but capturing that revenue, had we not browned out one of the stations.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see that response time go up on the medics. We'll have a first due company that is there, and then it'll be additional time. And then what you'll see is others outside our system coming into the system. We have the same problem the other way, is where other locations are browning out rigs, and we're going into their area too.
Right. So with nursing ratio, you have to take into consideration also when Metro brings us who's an ICU patient. So that 1 to 4 goes back down to 1 to 2. And then also the hospital being impacted of having a 27-bed ER, and 17 of those beds are being occupied by patients who need to be in the hospital. And so what are the hospitals doing to do like an emergency command center of getting all the hospitalists together and doing discharges and getting, the medics? Just because you call 911 doesn't mean you automatically get a bed. You go out to triage, and the level 2s and the level 3s who are our high acuities are, just because. Unfortunately, I think with what's happened sometimes is EMS will bring in a patient, say a 70-year-old with chest pain, and they need a bed, but we have 4 other 70-year-olds with chest pain who have been waiting for 4 hours to get that bed. That you can't jump it, because what we do when we triage is to sort. And if you have the same acuity and the same complaints, I think it's hard sometimes for EMS to realize that, they do need a bed. And unfortunately, so do these other elderly patients that have been waiting that came in by private auto. And then I wanted to get some clarification when you say go back to diversion, because my concern with diversion is we go back to the round robin. And even though we go on diversion, you're going to take patients out of county, impact a different county, and now you have Sac County patients in Placer County impacting Placer County, and then it's just a vicious cycle. And so even though we go on diversion, UC Davis gets 1 patient, Mercy San Juan gets 1 patient, South Sac gets 1 patient, so we're not really going on diversion. Does that make sense? So I just wanted some clarification. What do you mean when go back to diversion?
Well, of being able to look at the hospitals that are less impacted, possibly with patient, because again, at both dispatch and of course in the facilities themselves, we have the capability of looking at capacities. So, on average right now, all 11 area hospitals are running at 135% capacity on a daily basis. During the peak call times, back in January, they were running at 220% capacity. So being able to look at their capacities by facility, and then being able to utilize that information to be able to drive as to where a patient may or may not be taken.
And I know that there is information out there in the community, because on a daily basis we're giving a score of what our hospital is at, whether it's at a disaster mode, overcrowding, at normal level, whether an ER is at a normal level, but it's a manageable level kind of a thing where we don't have wait times. I know you guys had discussed about somehow fining the hospitals. I truly believe that unless they have any accountability, it's not going to change. I just don't understand why one hospital can get it right, and they are the busiest hospital for a certain hospital. That it just makes no sense to me. And until those other, and I can tell you just from the EMS part, what happens when they go to round robin. Well, if UC Davis is going to close, they might not be overcrowded, but you better believe Mercy San Juan's going to then close, and then Kaiser South Sac is going to close, because we don't want that influx of 15 ambulances because UC Davis is no longer accepting patients. And I'm sure that there's games out there in the EMS, but there's definitely in the hospital world as well.
Those are valid points. You fix one problem and you create two other issues. So
I appreciate the information, so thank you for the clarification.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Director Sheets. Any other? I thank you for the report. This is very beneficial for me. I'll tell you, the 74 hospitals that it sounds like they are not impacted. The only question I have, and it doesn't need to be every one, are they of like size of our service area? Or are they a smaller community? If they are of like size, then I think it's apples to apples at that point. But I'm glad that we're using the heat maps to do predictive analysis of where calls may come from one month to the next. As we know, as it heats up, more calls are coming. So I applaud all of you in the efforts that you're doing and trying to be innovative on how we can minimize this. And I agree with you, Director Sheets. The hospitals, I don't want to say play games, that's not it, but if they have to do that to get patients in. But I think the key factor is our personnel sitting on the walls, and how do we mitigate that? So I applaud you for looking at it, and I'm interested to see the future analysis. So thank you.
Thank you.
Director Barnes, just a quick comment of a thank you to Randy and his group, and underneath Chief Bridge, of them looking at these. But it's been really since January that we've been able to pull this data together. And it's really become key for us to be able to go and say, this is really what is happening at your hospital. Or here's a hospital that's doing really well, and go and tell them, hey, thank you for doing a good job. I think the members out there knew it, and they knew when they would go to a hospital what it would be for the wall time. Occasionally they'll go in and it'll be absolutely just packed, and it's just too many people there. But a lot of places, they know exactly what the wall time is. And with this data, we can truly sit down with the administrators and say, here is data. It's consistent between Metro, the city, any of the communities around here are all measuring exactly the same data. And then being able to say, what are we going to do to fix this? But Randy and his group has done just a great job of pulling this together. And it is a big part, and it's just one of those parts of when we look at our ambulance service delivery and how do we improve it moving forward.
Thank you for those comments, and I agree with you. Appreciate everything, everybody. Those reports are valuable, so we look forward to the future reports on that. Action items, fiscal year 2015 State Homeland Security Grant Program. Is it Chief Shannon?
Good evening, Vice President Barnes, Board of Directors, Chief Harms. Brian Shannon, Deputy Chief of Support Services. Tonight in your board packet, you have a board resolution that designates authorized agents from Metro Fire to manage federal grant monies, basically from the Homeland Security grant of 2015. And if I can just take a few minutes, I'm going to go back in time a little bit, and we're going to talk about the Zinfandel training site. I believe the last time it came in front of the board was June of 2015, was talking about some grant money and a reimbursement document that you guys had 2 years ago now. And give you a little history, what's going on, what's taking place, where we're moving, and hopefully what the future looks like. So as we know, back in 2013, we constructed some USAR, Urban Search and Rescue props out at our training site. Through a grant in 2010. There were some other certification requirements after the props were built. So we were looking at the CRF, TA, JPA through Cal OES. That's where the money was funneling through from Homeland. And we were waiting for that next part of that grant funds to arrive. There was no action taken on that. So recently, in the last couple of months, with our partners over here at JPA and Cal OES, we've had a lot of good meetings. We've now been awarded a $170,000 grant from Cal OES, and that's that 2015 grant that you see in front of you. And that $170,000, that grant-funded money, will get us to that point. And that our goal for 2017 is to finish the props with the construction and get that site certified. That is the goal. And certification of the site is what we need to do to move forward. If we can get, the plan for that is through 2017, so in 2018 we can actually start training and using it what it's used for. And the JPA can start conducting classes. We can get our folks some classes where they don't have to travel all up and down the state, and we've talked about that a number of times throughout the years. And hopefully, and what does that mean in the future for our Zinfandel site for the rest of the 30-plus acres? Well, we will be working diligently to move forward with that, the rest of the training site, and the vision that was, probably about 7 years old now. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of history, a little back, what we've been doing, where we're going, and what the future looks like. I think it looks fantastic right now, and we're excited to get this site certified so we can push forward with this USAR training, the props. So that's in a nutshell, that's what that resolution is in front of you. So
thank you, Chief.
Open it up for any questions if anybody has any questions.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adopt.
I'll second.
And a second. Madam Clerk?
Director Gale.
Yes.
Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you again, Chief Shannon. Appreciate it. We look forward to that site hopefully opening for training. Moving on, cost recovery for presidential declaration for grant funding for 2017. Chief Quinn.
Vice President Barnes, Board of Directors, Chief Harms, Chris Quinn, Assistant Chief Operations, here to speak with you tonight and provide a little background information on an item that you have before you. This is going to be in regards to the January and February storm events throughout Sacramento County and the response into the region by our agency and members in support of local, state, and federal partners. Specifically, the types of activities and resources dedicated by Metro Fire were water rescue teams and boat teams that you may have heard about, as well as the Metrocopter for rescue or situational awareness, or an ability to gain that information and then provide some level of insight on resource allocation down in the Wilton area or surrounding areas. Further, there was logistical support for allied agencies responding from Southern California and the Bay Area, and to be able to receive those teams at our fleet facility. So that was opened up, and we were prepared at all hours to be able to handle those incoming resources into the Sacramento region to assist members of the community. Our members staffed the Sacramento County Emergency Operations Center. Our members as well staffed the regional Type 3 incident management team, and were deployed out to be able to provide oversight for some of these types of incidents. I think what it highlights is the fact that our professional staff supported all of the above operations, and then at the conclusion of those incidents, for the many weeks and in fact a couple of months after, professionally collected the data, completed the paperwork, attended regional meetings, filed reports, and assured that our agency was reimbursed as allowed by the Presidential Emergency Declaration. And that involved operations staff, staffing personnel, of course finance, and the logistics folks to be able to go through that effort. The result before you are amounts for two events, cost recovery, the first being $44,378 and some cents, and then a secondary cost recovery for the February events, which was $35,313.93, with a total billing of $79,692.13. What that doesn't take into account were the additional dollars that would go through our normal process. So our OES, CAL FIRE type deployments where we receive that reimbursement as well, so well in excess of $100,000. This highlights our agency's ability to respond to the all-risk needs in support of others in line with our mission statement and our core values. And further, that the job is not completed until we assure our fiduciary duty to the citizens and taxpayers we directly serve. So that concludes my presentation, unless you have any questions.
I do not. Thank you. Any comments or questions? Director Gale.
On your relation with FEMA, we have a very talented organization. I was still working at the time of the disaster in New Orleans, and FEMA did not have the staff to do the job. And it'll be a great impact and a great service on this district if the fund is there for you to do that. They are out at McClellan, some of them out there, trucks parked or whatever. But what kind of staff do they have, skilled staff to do these disaster services?
I think what's key is that this agency has had an incredibly forward-leaning stance, keeping those partnerships with our local, state, and federal partners, recognizing that today it might not be impacting directly our specific jurisdiction, but the neighboring jurisdiction is having some issues. And so we have the capability, really, and being a very nimble organization, to lean forward, go out there and assist those organizations. But I think sometimes what maybe particularly governmental institutions don't do as well that this agency has captured is to have the professional staff on the back end to recognize that there's a cost. And so we have to then, once the mission is accomplished, the first portion, which is the emergency service, is to then get together and then recover those costs so that we are then prepared again to respond, right? Those monies or those resources have been expended, need to be refreshed. And so our staff does a remarkable job, all those folks that are really behind the scenes. We're fortunate enough to wear the badge, but we have an entire organization that keeps this organization moving forward and a leader as it is.
And I hope that FEMA would have, from those lessons learned, the skilled people who can do the job, and they were going around trying to recruit people at that time the disaster is there. And thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Gale. Thank you, Chief Quinn. Director Gould.
Chief Quinn, thank you very much for the information that you provided. And I just want to thank you and the staff, and you've articulated very well. The point of the matter is when we provide these services and then federal dollars are made available to compensate us for those hours, it puts this agency in a strong position to do it again.
Absolutely.
And that is a really, really forward-thinking organization that looks at recovering those costs. None the least of which is making sure that our taxpayers and their hard-earned dollars are not expended and then not recouped. And so kudos to everyone that looks at these opportunities and jumps on them when the feds say, okay, there's money available for that, because I think that's really key for us so that every single time we're asked to do this, there's a known entity of what it's going to be. It's not going to be done for free necessarily if it's appropriate. And so kudos to all of your staff for this one cost recovery, and I look forward to many more in the future as we participate with the feds and the state agencies. So with that, I make a motion we adopt the resolution.
And I'll second it.
Madam Clerk.
Director Gale.
Yes.
Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you
Chief
very
Quinn.
much.
Truly appreciate all the work for everybody has done. Madam Clerk, I believe items 3 and 4 are moving for after closed session. Is that correct? Thank
Yes.
you very much. Moving on to reports. Presidential report, I do not have one at this time, and we will be reporting out whenever we have our next executive. How about this? President's report. I don't have one. We'll move on. I started moving on to the committee and delegate reports, trying to get us moving, so I apologize. Fire Chief, Chief Harms. Thank you.
Directors, last Friday, unfortunately, we lost two council members that have been great supporters of the district. Up in Citrus Heights, Councilmember Mel Turner passed away, and on the same day, Councilmember Scoglin, Dan Scoglin, right, passed away, both of them on the morning of April 20th. They both had served their community for a long period of time, and both were very supportive of Metro Fire over the years. And so we'd just like to recognize them and honor them for their contributions to the public service that they did and their support to the district. On April 20th at about 11:30 p.m., we had a fire that was over in the Hurley area of the Hurley and Morrissey area, Director Clark's area, where companies arrived on scene and had heavy fire from a residence. They were able to get in and find the resident inside and remove them, but unfortunately passed away. But the crews, I'd just like to recognize, did an outstanding job of being prepared, their training, and to be able to show up and have the best opportunity to be able to get inside of a structure under probably the worst conditions of knowing somebody is inside and taking the risk and going inside and getting them and get them out of there. A few other things. Captain Andy Whaley has been selected as the Reserve Program Coordinator. Cora Hall is leaving to go to Galt, correct? She's been with us for 4 years, and we wish her well in going down there on the human resource side of it. And Leslie Miller is going to be moving up into her position. Last month, there has been, last probably 6 months, there's been a lot of members that have been getting prepared for the engineer's test. That consists of the over-the-road driving, the pumping, the pre-trip, and a written test, and I'm happy to say that we had 24 personnel that were successful in that promotional exam, and on May 2nd, 20 of them will get promoted. So it'll have a huge effect of a number of engineers that have been either working overtime or working mandatory overtimes, but we have a number of spots that 20 of them will be promoted right away. So that's a congratulations to each one of them that are out there. We have a single role recruitment that is going on that ends in May. We also have a few other administrative specialists, which is internal recruitment that is going on. We met just this week, and I know 522 is here, as Ty is here. We met and had a labor management meeting and talked kind of about an area of focus for about 5 different areas between labor and management and moving forward. In Director Jones's area, we have an open house on Saturday, or no, it's actually on Sunday at Station 65, and that's from 12 to 2. And also at the same time right now, we're getting ready for fire camp that will take place July 11th through the July 14th at Station 21. I think each of you got a packet on fire camp that's coming up. And the last thing is that we went out, Director Kelly, into your area, up into the North Highlands portion of your area, and did a smoke detector installation. And they were able to go out in Metro. We had purchased about 165 smoke detectors that have a 10-year life. And it's the new style with the locked-in battery. And they were going to that area, and I think right around 100 plus smoke detectors put into it, and they had gone and through community services had identified that area as a high-risk area, a lower income, a higher fire activity that is in there, and went up there with a number of partners from the schools, from the CERT program, and put in a bunch of smoke detectors. So they did a great job. That ends my report unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Chief Harms. Comments? Director Gale.
I got some calls who were concerned about fire alarms, et cetera. And there are some poor people in my district also.
We will try to get around the district and identify those areas that have the biggest potential, and we'll try to get out there and give as many smoke detectors out as we can.
And we can offer you some help if you need some help.
All right.
There are people that I'm quite sure would be cognizant of the need of it, and as I say, there are some poor ones from indications what I see in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gale. Any other comments? Thank you, Chief Harms. Moving on to operations report. Chief Bridge.
Okay, Vice President Barnes, Board of Directors, Chief Harms, Eric Bridge, Operations Chief. Short report for you tonight, but I got a couple pictures, so that always makes up for it. I'll share those with you in just a moment. Our calls are staying about the same. We've, since our last board meeting, have just over 3,800 total calls. 9 of those were structure fires. EMS dispatches of about 2,800 calls, which we transported about 68% of the time. AMR helped us out with 375 dispatches with about a 58.5% transport rate. And the photos I want to share with you is the status of our heavy rescue. We get this off here, close out, and we'll get it here. All right, should have got a apple. There we go. We're getting closer. A couple more screens to.
Cannot access the board.
Yeah, I know, huh? All right, we're getting it here. Here we go. And yes, I think we're getting them here. And move that little funny thing around. Okay. All right, so it was, I'm trying to remember, about 18 months ago, or about 16 months ago, we passed, we're out at Rio Linda when we had this presentation and accepted the opportunity to purchase and replace our old heavy rescue with this one here. So this is we're gonna be taking delivery in a few weeks, and then we have the equipment all purchased and some of that still on its way in. We'll be outfitting this heavy rescue, which is right there on Greenback next to San Juan High School. And we're hoping to have this on the road and rolling by the 1st of July. So I just wanted to take a moment to share with you. It's a really nice, the guys and gals from Station 21 have done a tremendous job in working out the specifications on this. And this is state-of-the-art Type 1 heavy rescue. So anyway, I thought you might enjoy the pictures. You guys anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Director Gould.
Chief, can you just Can you, for the public, just kind of explain the uniqueness of this rig? I think to a lot of people it looks like a really big fire truck.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important for them to understand that this is far more than that.
Yeah.
And that there's not a lot of them in the region.
No, there's not. And to be typed as a Type 1 heavy rescue means a lot more than just a fire engine rolling down the road. And so this is essentially where we have specialized trained members of our department that go through extensive training, thousands of hours beyond what traditional firefighters would go through in terms of where we go through confined space rescue, we got trench rescue, high angle rescue. We have all sorts of, they're trained in building collapse. So they go through Rescue Systems 1 and Rescue Systems 2, and many of the members on the heavy rescue team are part of the Urban Search and Rescue team, of which those teams get deployed anywhere throughout the world, generally for major disasters, whether that be earthquake or terrorist attacks or anything of that nature. So the members at Station 21 and those who ride this heavy rescue rig are generally at the tops when it comes to being trained in specialized rescue.
Basically, when the San Andreas gets angry, heavy rescue goes out.
When California becomes an island, we'll have our own heavy rescue right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gould. Any other? Thank you, Chief Bridge.
You're welcome.
Moving on, Local 522. Mr. Bailey.
I'm going to hit the pause. I know. Pause that. And show exit.
My ADD will kick in and I'm on top.
Yeah, no, she's got it there. Good. All right. It's all yours.
Good evening, Board of Directors. Ty Bailey, Local 522. Like the fire chief stated, we had our labor management meeting. We're continuing to plow ahead. And one of the things that we talked about when he was first hired here at Metro Fire is that there may be things that we disagree on. We're going to push those aside, and we're going to continue to maintain those labor management relations so that we can push forward and still achieve the goals that we want to, even though we may not agree on one or two of those items. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate EMS and the board. The chief and his staff are looking into wall times as something I discussed with you several months ago. It definitely is going to take a collaborative approach from our union and all the other unions, the nurses union as well. And we're willing to collaborate on that and do whatever we need to do from our side to assist with that process. I want to congratulate all the engineers that passed. There was 24. It's one of our largest lists that we've had in at least 2 years. I believe 19 of them, or 20 of them were promoted or will be promoted May 2nd, so the list won't be around too long. But it does show that there's definitely an increase in experience, education, and as well as the training that's going on to assist our members getting through that process. And I was out there at least 2 of the days, I believe, and what I saw was people that are very capable of doing the job, so congratulations. May 8th is the captain's test coming up. I will also be part of that process with human resources and training. I want to wish everyone good luck in that process. The last thing I'd like to discuss with you is on June 24th, our A Tropical Affair is coming back, and I'd like to see all of our board members as well as those in community, command staff, and local 522 members to be part of that process and raising money for Shriners. It's going to be at Shriners. It's for the Firefighter Burn Institute. This year we have achieved over $1 million contribution throughout the years, contributing to Shriners Hospital as well as UC Davis. So I look forward to seeing you all out there, and that's the end of my report unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No. Thank you for being here. I appreciate the collaborative work that you're working with Chief Harms. I agree with you. The wall time, everything that's been said tonight, I truly believe people, even in the hospitals, want to correct that problem. It's just trying in that solution. So I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, committee and delegate reports where I tried to jump to earlier. Executive committee, we did not meet tonight, and we are to be determined for the next meeting. Communication Center JPA, Chief Johnson.
We met on Tuesday, April 25th, and nothing to report.
Thank you very much. California Fire and Rescue Training JPA Director Kelly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the JPA has not met since I last reported out. June 15th is our next meeting. It'll be here at the Exercise Simulation Center, June 15, Thursday at 4 p.m.
Thank you very much. And Finance and Audit Committee, you're back on, Director Kelly.
Finance and Audit Committee met this evening. We received a financial report through the end of February from the Chief Financial Officer. And then next month, we will receive a preliminary budget for 17-18 report.
Thank you very much. And Policy Committee, Director Gould.
The Policy Committee has a slated event to happen on May 11th. It's time to be determined.
Thank you very much. Board member questions and comments. We will start with Director Gale.
I have no comment.
Thank you very much. And Director Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to publicly thank the Metro family once again for showing up and taking care of my family since April Fool's Day. And apparently as a fool, I have a tendency to get in trouble. So I appreciate all of the staff and the kind words from my colleagues at the dais and the chief and many others that took time out of their busy schedules to wish me luck. And I want to publicly thank the surgeons at Kaiser South for saving my life. It was a pretty powerful day. But thanks to all of you. It's overwhelming. Enough said.
Thank you, and glad you're here. Director Orzali.
I just wanted to express my appreciation for the reports we received this evening. It was great work, really, really informative. I wanted to also express my gratitude at having Grant back with us. And I also wanted to mention I had the opportunity to sit down with Ty Bailey and talk about the new tenor of the relationships between Metro Fire and 522. It was a great discussion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Orzali. Director Sheets.
Welcome back, Director Gould. I'm glad that South Sac took good care of you. I also wanted to thank Captain Bruce and his team for the St. Baldrick event. And also, he came and spoke to my staff regarding multi-casualty events and kind of shed light on what happens out in the EMS community. And there were several nurses that had no idea of when you guys respond, we'll get an update of, yeah, there's 15 patients out there, and not only were you hilarious, but you were very informative. So thank you very much. Also wanted to congratulate all of the engineers that promoted, and to wish luck to all the captain, or for the staff that are going to be doing the captain's test, and then condolences for the 2 council members. And then that's it.
Thank you. Director Kelly.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing. Thank you.
And thank you. And Director Jones.
Reiterating comments already made by my fellow directors, condolences for those 2 leaders who have passed, Mr. Turner, Mr. Skoglund, and may they rest in peace. On the other side of the coin today, a thank you. Nice to see you, Grant. Welcome home. Welcome back. Thanks for all the reports, especially the EMS detailed report for wall times. As an organization, we've been focusing on that for several years, on working on improving that. It takes some time, but we are moving forward, and I very much appreciate all that information. Thank you to PIO Chris Vestal and to Patty and Reed from St. Baldrick's organization. And way to go, Bruce. We'll get them next time, number 1. Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And for me, I just echo all the comments. Director Gould, as we know, those incidents we see, we hear about here as we sit up here, and for it to hit close to home and watch Metro Fire rally around you, the medical staff at the hospital, humbly thank you, and glad you're absolutely able to join us tonight. We appreciate that. With that, we're going to go into closed session, so I don't expect to see anybody out here, as Director Gould used to always say, when we come back as we report out. So hopefully you have a great evening, and we'll adjourn and go to closed session.
When you're ready, right now.
I got your chair, I apologize. I think we're all back. Okay, we're all back. Call this meeting back to order. And Madam Clerk, do we just report out from the closed session, or what do you need me to do?
General Counsel Lauber
We'll just report out from closed session.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, very good. The court met in a closed session with Director Wood, Clark, and Gould absent. With respect to closed session items, number 1A, the workers' compensation claim involving Christopher Anaya, the board voted unanimously to provide authority to its third-party workers' compensation carrier to effectuate a settlement of that claim. With respect to closed session item 1B, the board voted unanimously to provide, and that's Brian Sucatre and Sac Metro Fire District, voted unanimously to provide authority to its third-party workers' compensation carrier to effectuate a release of that claim. on conference with legal counsel regarding pending litigation involving the industrial disability retirement issues related to Frank Lima and Philip Lopez. The court took no action, and that will be acted upon in open session. The last item was conference with legal counsel involving a Government Code Section 910 claim filed by CSAA against Sac Metro Fire District. The board voted unanimously to reject that, to authorize the clerk to reject that claim and refer the matter to the district's insurance carrier for further handling. Thank you, and that's it.
Now we will move to action items 3 and 4.
Moving on to action items 3 and 4. Can I get a motion?
Yes, Mr. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I move action item number 3, industrial disability retirement for Frank Lima.
Can I get a second? Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. We have first, second. Can we call roll, please?
Director Gale.
Yes, on staff recommendation.
Orzali. Jones.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Action item number 4, industrial disability retirement for Philip Lopez.
Mr. Chair, I move recommendation by senior staff for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Director Gale.
Yes, on staff recommendation.
Orzali. Jones.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Barnes.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our next board meeting will be in these headquarters here next May 11, 2017 at 6 p.m. But prior to closing this session, I'd like to recognize some individuals who are crucial not only to our area but the fire industry. Also today, New York City Fire Department William Tully was laid to rest after he died in a fire last week in Queens, New York. It was described as a routine fire, but firefighter Tully fell 5 stories when he fell out of a bucket ladder. He leaves behind a wife, Marie, and an 8-year-old daughter, Bella. Also recognizing City Council for Rancho Cordova, Dan Skoglund, and Citrus Heights City Council, Mel Turner. So if we could have a moment of silence for those individuals before we close. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.